see. So emotional regulation. We're talking about emotional regulation because I don't know about you, but a bitch struggles daily. So I just thought it would be like cool for us to talk about it because we talk about it all the time, so we might as well, record it.
Yeah, yeah.
But when I say emotional regulation, what comes to mind? Like if you didn't know about emotional regulation, like as a concept, what would you think it means?
I think they probably mean like having a more appropriate way to react to things emotionally, not being so triggered all the time from past traumas and experiences, being a
Mm-hmm.
little bit more balanced emotionally.
Yeah.
I think things like this, not being so having like moments of feeling blind from emotion or something like that. That's what I feel it is. I'm not 100% sure if there is a more nuance to that, but
Yeah.
that's pretty much the idea I have from
Yeah.
it.
No, that's really good. Like if I didn't know what it was, I would not have that answer. I would probably think, oh, emotional regulation it just means like being able to suppress your emotions.
Oh,
Because
okay.
for a long time, I just didn't even know what it meant to
Mhm.
deal with your emotions.
Mhm.
All I saw was outbursts and anger and silent treatment. There was no communication or like, here's how you talk yourself down. I still don't really know how to talk myself down from like a really intense emotion.
Mhm.
And I think to some degree, like everyone struggles these days with it. And yeah, I just like, what do you think the root is?
Um, it's hard to say because I think well, we all in a sense traumatized kids and we are raised
Mm-hmm.
by traumatized kids. So I think it comes a little bit from that, a little bit from having to like not a we don't have the proper assistance in learning how to emotionally regulate while we're growing up, and as grown-ups we don't have as much meltdowns, I guess, but at the same time sometimes we get triggered with things that doesn't really make sense and just put us back to a point where we feel that we're totally lost in our feelings.
Yeah.
And I think it comes a little bit from that, a little bit from having, this heritage of emotionally hurt and traumatized family in general. Like, I think everybody can come from that, like, it's
Yeah.
really hard to believe there's like someone that's not at least a tiny little bit a victim of that in a sense.
Yeah. Like can manage everything
Yeah,
perfectly.
like I don't think it's even realistic.
Yeah. I can't imagine what that would look like.
I think if you come to that point, you're probably gonna die the next day because you'd be way too old to do something else about it.
Or you've already fulfilled your life's purpose.
Yeah,
Because there's no way you're that advanced and you're just walking through.
something like that.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think like there's no way every person can maintain like complete rationale and like have their neat ways to deal with their emotions as they come up. And
Hmm.
they're just living like that's obviously the life I want to live. Who doesn't? But like there's no fucking way. Sometimes like you just have this expectation that like you should be perfect with it.
Hmm.
And I think that's what stops me from doing it in the moment because I get blinded with especially like anger and hurt.
Hmm.
When I'm hurt or I'm angry, holy crap, like that will literally influence life decisions.
Hmm.
It will influence destructive, like self destructive behavior. I'm not saying everyone has it as bad as I do,
Hmm.
but like, or as good as I do in some cases, probably as well. But it's just it feels like someone one day was like, here, you're going to become a rocket scientist without any education on
Mm.
physics or can't like nothing. You're just going
Just
to figure
figuring
it
it
out.
out. Yeah,
Basically.
I do see what you're saying.
Yeah, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'll just
Well, I'll
not be
try my
sad.
best.
Yeah. Yeah, so I grew up with the message that like it's not okay to cry when you're trying to talk to someone about like go to your room if you're crying.
Mm-hmm.
If you're having too much of a, like any emotion, you're inconveniencing someone and you're
Yeah.
asking them to deal with your emotions for you,
Mm-hmm.
which as a kid, yes, that's literally what you do, and then you learn how to deal with them. But at the time, because I wasn't taught, my early 20s were filled with a lot of self-destructive behavior and a lot of addictions and a lot of inability to connect with other people, and a lot of it was a lack of emotional regulation.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you feel the same kind of like weight to emotional regulation in your life.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel that for me, the way it plays out is that I don't get involved emotionally very often. You
Mm.
know, like to, I guess I always rationalize my emotions, which is one way to kind of escape from actually regulating your emotions and not only trying to manage them to fit others' expectation, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, so I rationalize a lot, and it kind of gives me some sort of relief. But every time that I'm in the moment and I feel emotionally vulnerable and sensitive, it just feels that I'm so wrong to be in that position.
Mm.
It comes with a lot of guilt, and I just feel like the worst human being, and I'm failing greatly because I'm not able to have like this logic or straight conversation, that I have to feel that amount of emotion at the time. And I guess it's been happening a lot more lately, especially because I feel that we get tired a little bit from just hiding our emotions, and running from them to the point that it just accumulates, and you just get too emotional sometimes, and react in a way that is too intense for a specific situation that it almost feels it's not about that thing specifically,
Yeah.
you know? So, yeah, I think my way to, I mean, not knowing what to do with my emotions, my way to deal with them is rationalizing, you know?
Mm.
And,
Where did that come from? Why do you rationalize so much?
um, good question. I never really thought about it, you know? Uh, I come from a very, um, trying to make the best decision kind of family, you know?
Mm.
So think about every kind of consequence and think about every pro and cons, and make the best decision possible.
Wow.
So that kind of like puts me in this spot where I have to analyze my emotions,
Mm.
because sometimes decisions that I have to make, they involve emotion, and for me it's really hard to just do something because I feel that I want it, or I feel a specific way, and I have to find any sort of like cause, or justify my decision, because logically, because whatever,
Mm.
because I don't feel feeling that this is the right decision for like whatever reason is the best for me, like I have to justify that. So to do that, I have to imply logic and create this entire narrative behind the way that I'm feeling and why I'm taking that decision. um
So your
I guess
upbringing,
because of my yeah.
during your upbringing, it was like, was it like you kind of were just told that you have to make the right decision and not be emotional, or was it kind of like, here's how you handle your emotions and then you make the logical choice? Was that just not a part of your?
I don't think there was a space for emotion.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was something that, like every time I got sad or upset, or was like feeling emotional for some reason, the way that I guess my mom would try to deal with that with me was like, what is wrong? Like,
Mm.
like what happened? What did you do? Like trying to almost like investigate a huge source of, this bad feeling that was, sometimes I was just feeling upset,
Mm.
frustrated, and not even help me realize what the actual thing was. It was just like, if you don't have a problem in a very real concrete way of a problem, something that we can point at and say that's the problem, you don't have a reason to be sad, you know? And that just made me hide my feelings most of the time. And
Yeah.
when I felt not so good, I would have to pretend that I was feeling awesome. And I, just got really great at hiding my emotions and being very chill and very vibey all the time because I didn't have space to have really express myself as I was feeling at a time,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Totally. Totally. Wow, that's interesting. I don't think I've ever had like the rational side either of like here's how you use logic and here's how you make the best decision.
Mm-hmm.
In my house it was kind of like don't make such a big deal out of your emotions. I'll give you something to cry about.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like I'll give you a
Mm-hmm.
reason. Um which is kind of like why does there always have to be a reason? Like you were saying. But it's like it wasn't even just that. It was like you kind of get the message that like for me because I felt like the bad person in the house for having emotions. It felt like everyone else was suppressing their emotions or having outbursts and I was being fussy as a kid if I didn't want to do something or if I was feeling uncomfortable. And as a person with ADHD, I had a lot of sensory issues. I didn't like jeans, I didn't like clothing with a certain kind of thread. And if I had to wear these or if I was on a plane and I was uncomfortable and I would kick and I'd be like uncomfortable,
Mm-hmm.
that was like I would get in so much shit for externally being uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially I got the message early that you have to kind of make everyone else feel better and
Mm-hmm.
be the good girl, be the quiet, like non-emotional, rational person. I didn't even
Mm-hmm.
learn about rationale, but it was more like just succeed in school and that's it. And so now it's kind of like I still have the programming to be the good girl that doesn't rock the boat, that doesn't feel bad. So I will let it build up. I will
Mm-hmm.
not want to come off as like the scapegoat that I've always been.
Mm-hmm.
So I will try to suppress my own emotions, do things for other people, and then it gets to a point where I'm up here with how much I've suppressed. And then someone will not appreciate something that I do because I want to, essentially, from their perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And then I get defensive because it's like, oh, I held in all my emotions and I did all of these things and I'm such a good girl. Why am I not getting the treatment that I want?
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Mm-hmm.
like you're just perpetually living in that like
Yeah, I think it kind of creates a feeling that if you're sacrificing so much of yourself to make everybody else comfortable, it's kind of unfair that you kind of feel entitled of people not giving you stuff, but like I guess doing the bare minimum for you. And usually the
mm-hmm.
way it goes is not like this. The way it goes is you have to do this huge effort to make everybody else comfortable. Nobody's going to care about you. It's not like at the end of the day, somebody's going to say, good job. Here's like 30 minutes to do whatever you want
Yeah,
and just like put everything out there or sit down and talk. And,
right,
and like, it was
right.
just like this huge effort for absolutely no reward.
Yes.
But as kids, like I think it's kind of a fair game because you need love and acceptance in a way that literally saves your life. Like if you don't have that, if you're abandoned, you die.
Yeah.
So your response to this kind of demands are really literal. So you really just like do the best you can to be the best possible. Otherwise, you're gonna die.
Yeah. That's kid logic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And growing up, you just don't know exactly like how to negotiate with your emotions because you learn for such a long time that if you don't do that, nobody's gonna be around with you
Yeah.
and just gonna just leave you and everything. And when you grow up and you were able to just build a life for yourself, this kind of stuff start to build up so much. And a lot of, I mean, I wouldn't say like it depends, of course, but it's not uncommon that some relationships kind of rise from that kind of toxic dynamic
Mm-hmm.
in which someone is giving too much and someone is taking too much,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but I think the challenge is when you face you're faced with a relationship that kind of asks you to do the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
You know, ask you to just chill, just be a little bit more honest with your emotion, to be a little bit more in tune with whatever you need, and not being such a people pleaser all the time. And it's hard. It's not like it's gonna be like this amazing thing where you find this and then you're like, oh, I don't have to pretend anymore. I can be myself, and then you know what to do. You don't
Yeah.
know what to do. Like,
Yeah.
it's really hard. You have to really connect again with yourself to a point that you find how to live that life, because you never had that experience before.
Right. And that relationship that's asking for you to do that, you don't even know if you can, like,
If it's like a trick.
kind of, in the sense that if you start doing that and it pisses them off,
Yeah.
then it's just, it re-traumatizes you.
Yeah.
And it feels like it's so anxiety producing, you know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but you're right.
Yeah, it's like you're never sure if, okay, if I actually put everything out there and be a little bit more honest about how I'm feeling, is all these relationships around me gonna be here?
Yeah.
You know, like it's terrifying to find out what kind of what kind of relationship is true, in a sense that someone is really interested in you as a
Yeah.
person, and what kind of relationships depend on that dynamic to exist. You know?
Totally, 100%. And like, bringing it back to emotional regulation, I feel like, just like you said, you, like, in my opinion, you kind of just get stuck in that expectation and also emotion. So like, a lot of the emotions that I feel during the day aren't new emotions.
Mm-hmm.
They're like emotions that I had as a kid. You know, that feeling of wanting to just be accepted, and someone sit down with you and say, hey, good job today, like, now you earn 30 minutes of rest, right? Or do whatever you want. That is an expectation you have of a parent. And when that parent has never done that for you, and has never been there for you emotionally, then you grow up kind of starving for that, and you look for it in other people. And yeah, so I think what helps me sometimes, if I'm blinded by rage, it probably won't help me. I need some time to actually feel that emotion. But when it's starting to get up there, I kind of just think to myself, like, these are old emotions. Right now, I'm longing for acceptance. I'm longing for warmth from this person. But like, this is actually an emotion that I had as a kid when I wanted that from a parent, and it wasn't given to me. So it's like, there's that extra layer of now how do you deal with that? Because when you were a kid, you probably just went to your room and you started coloring. That's what I did. But now it's like, okay, so now I deal with current emotions and emotions that I felt as a kid. And it's like, fuck, is it an illusion that so many people are out there doing it well? Am I the only one that struggles this much?
I truly feel that most people are a little bit numb from it, you know, just like doing it and saying, this is my personality, this is how I am, and that's it. You know, because it's not really true. Like, I think if we had this crazy amount of people that really are being themselves, we wouldn't have as much trouble with mental health and physical health and social health, you know, the way that we have nowadays. So I don't really feel that. I think it's an illusion, because we can never know. Like, if you see someone having fun and living their best life, it doesn't really mean that's true, because what you can see is just the public version of that person, which can even, you know, just reflect that adapting emotionally thing that they probably had learned how to do, because otherwise they wouldn't be accepted and loved as a kid. You know. But one of the things that kind of like gives me a little bit motivation to go down that road is that in a sense it's kind of like a second nature. You know, if you learn to be somebody you're not, it's not truly yourself, even though you're used to that for a long time. You know, like, your first nature is to be yourself. You just don't know what the hell that is. But I guess is something that might be so intimate and so intensely yourself, and you hear people that are like 50, 60, 70 that say that, oh, now I know who I am, you know, and it's been there this entire time, and they have the point where they figured this out. But like I don't want to wait until that to do this. So I'm hoping to do this like sooner rather than later. But that's one thing that I find that's pretty exciting about all of this, that it's just like finding something that's already there instead of like building this new person that is not this hurt person that you learn to be growing up, you know.
Mm-hmm. I just feel like who I actually am is buried under so many mechanisms.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wish that like survival wasn't the human being's primary drive, because
Mm-hmm.
obviously that's why we're sitting here having this conversation. Because as kids we learned, like you said, that survival meant certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Um, being like your authentic self and emotionally regulated to me have always seemed juxtaposed. Like
Mm-hmm.
even thinking of someone in their 50s saying, "Oh, I finally found myself," the first image that pops into my head is someone who's lonely, like who doesn't have a partner.
Mm-hmm.
And to me that's like, I don't know if that's because I've seen so many relationships that are like people are just not themselves,
Mm-hmm.
or if I've seen so many dysfunctional relationships, but I can't imagine being completely yourself and loving yourself and still being in a like sharing a space with someone who is going to like essentially need you to regulate yourself and to be an adult. Like
Mm-hmm.
I just don't feel ready, and I don't know how anyone can, because I've been way too sensitive for this world since I was born. You know,
Mm-hmm.
like whether it was the ADHD or the sensory shit or just these emotions. I don't know if like being emotional is something I was born with, but all I know is it's ruining my life. So
Mm-hmm.
that's just where I'm at with that.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to know because like I don't even know where to start either. Like I know that I want to do that and I'm pursuing a way to do that. I'm not sure how that's going to go. Like I have absolutely no idea. I'm trying to kind of like search for knowledge and at least like something that kind of gives me a clue and be a little bit more connected to my brain and my body and paying a little bit more attention to the thoughts that come in my head, you know, and not really just like being unaware and running away from the ones that are uncomfortable, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think that might help in the sense that you become a little bit more it becomes a little bit more clear to you what's going on, you
Mm-hmm.
know. Because I feel that the trouble that we feel with this traumas from, you know, early life is that we become so like it's easier to perform that expectation if you are unaware of yourself, you know,
Mm-hmm.
if you're just like pretending it's not there and it becomes so good that you don't even know where is the thing coming
Yeah.
from anyways. um and you kind of have to reconnect with that part, I guess, to then understand like, oh, so this is who I am, you know. I think is almost like a digging process of finding yourself buried under this huge amount of experiences that you have in your life. But it's just a guess. Like I have no idea, you know. Like I guess it might be in that direction. Um, but it really feels to me that becoming aware of it, that this is a problem, and it's kind of impossible not to go back to that thought,
Mm-hmm.
even though like it's been clear to me for quite some time, but I never really done much work about it. But every time I come to a point where it becomes an issue, when I have this emotional breakdown in or whatever, and I see like, okay, I'm not being true to myself, I know that it always comes to you and always like there asking you to do something
Yeah.
about it, you know.
Yeah.
Eventually I'm gonna have to do something about it. I just
Yeah.
don't know, like it just seemed like such a long path, and I think it is, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a lifetime kind of a thing,
I
but
think so too. A whole
it just
lifetime of
makes me
this.
want to cry.
Yeah.
It just seems so
God
unfair. I
damn.
just came to this world. I didn't even ask.
Me neither.
I just came to have all this trouble. Like, what the hell?
Right? And now I'm like burdened with responsibility.
Yes.
Totally. And also at the end, like the other end of that is like, who are you? Are you even like, are you a person? Because like you'll ask people and they'll be like some people, spiritual people, or really high level psychiatrists and psychologists will say that none of us are anyone.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like you also have that idea of, did my traumas make this? And if this is who I know as myself,
Mm-hmm.
could it be that I'm actually no one and
Mm-hmm.
I'm just a part of the universe and I'm the same being as literally everyone else, and my job here is to use my traumas to my advantage because they're my blueprint for who I've become.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, because those ideas are so contradictory, and sometimes for me it's a little bit hard, I get stuck between, this is who I am and I want acceptance, and I can choose who I am,
Yeah, yeah, totally.
you know.